Hi, good evening, and welcome to day 24 of my 31-day live challenge. And well, today I've been working a lot on getting interviews, because next week I want to spend most of my time interviewing people on this show. So it's not just going to be me. And you saw earlier on in the program when I was started in the first week, I got a few people who I work with on Virtual Speaking Pros, and they came on the show and I was able to chat to them. And I want to practice my interview skills anyway, but I'm also trying to give other people an opportunity to practice their being interviewed skills, because it's all part of the same process. And I thought today what I'd do is I'd talk about why interviews are such a really awesome route for everybody, particularly if you want to get involved in live streaming, if you want to be a live streamer, if you want to be just promote your business, if you want to get more exposure. Interviews are an absolutely brilliant way to get more exposure. So that's the question we're going to ask today. Why interviews? Why should you use them? Why are they there? Now, you've got to be a little bit careful with interviews, because it can go wrong. You've got to remember that if you go on a show to be interviewed, the interviewer, the person hosting the show, wants it to be an entertaining show. So they're going to want a good, interesting, entertaining discussion. And if you've got some stuff around your life which is a bit fraught, then they're probably going to want to try to have a go for that. Now, it's not as bad as being on a major chat show where they're going to definitely pick up on those sorts of things, but you have to be a little careful. I'll come back to that in a minute. But first of all, why should we do this? Well, the first thing for me is that speaking just me in a room, speaking to a camera, is actually quite a challenge. You can mumble and lose your words a little bit and struggle. And when I'm speaking to an audience, it doesn't really matter, because I'll just say to the audience, what was I talking about again? And get them to engage with me and find something else that I can do. But here, it's pretty exposed. You're there, you're on camera, and if you stumble, you stop. And the feeling is to say, oh, no, let's cancel it. Let's go and do it again. But yeah, I have to get past that and let's do it warts and all. But if I'm interviewing, it actually gets a lot easier. I ask a question, I can then just get somebody else to do the talking, and all they're doing is telling me their story. I've triggered them, and if you look at someone like Jonathan Ross is brilliant at currently just getting people to tell their stories, and that's all he does. He just triggers a story, he just tells this story, tells that story, and everybody gets to do their stories, and that becomes an entertaining, interesting interview. I know he does a few other things as well, which I'm not going to even try to do on this show. But that's the first thing, is that it's easier for me as an interviewer as to running my show, because I can just engage with people, ask them questions, and we've got things going. When they run out of something to say, that's fine. I can then say something, add some comment back, respond to them because we're just having a conversation, or ask them another question. And if I've prepared in advance 3 or 4 questions or 5 questions that I want to ask, then that's where we're going to go, and I'll just ask those questions, and that'll prompt me, and I pop those onto my agenda. Remember yesterday I was talking about how I've got an agenda here. I've got my agenda in front of me, and I can just ask the next question, so that all works well. So why is it good for you going on a show to be interviewed? Well, when I first started doing live streaming, that's exactly what I did. I got involved in situations where I wasn't just me to a camera, it was me with a group of people, or me being interviewed. Now, the first one, Wendy Keir, interviewed me about storytelling, and I knew what I was going to say about storytelling, but I had been struggling quite a bit on how to present this. I could do it live without any problem, but doing a 20-minute presentation on camera about storytelling without breaking it I always thought was going to be a struggle. But in an interview, became much easier. We prepared in advance the sort of questions she was going to ask. I knew what I was going to say about those things. I had a few notes that I could then get into, and it was a very well prepared, and it worked extremely well. I had a 20-minute interview, really good, and that was a good program for people to watch. So just have a look at what you can do to get yourself on programs to be interviewed. If you're doing live shows yourself, I would strongly advise starting to look at this. I posted a couple of I put a couple of posts on some Facebook groups, asked if anybody wanted to be interviewed. Had quite a few people came back. I've just responded today to them, and I've got I think it's about 7 or 8 interviews lined up in the space of about 2 hours. So it actually isn't that difficult, but there are bags of people who want to be interviewed. There are bags of people who want to interview. So that's the great thing about the whole marketplace. So look around. You've got 2 possibilities. There are live shows like this, And what will happen after my 31-day challenge is I will be setting up a couple of weekly regular live shows, and I'll be looking for 1 or 2 people every show to come on and be interviewed, because most of them will be, I will do a little bit of straight to camera work, but most of them are going to be shows where I'm actually going to be interviewing people for 10 or 15 minutes about their books, their new products, services, getting advice from them on things around the whole area of speaking and live speaking. So look around for podcasts and live shows, and what you're looking for is shows that reach your audience. That's the most important thing, is that the people you want to do business with are watching or listening to those podcasts or those live shows. And if you can get on those, you're going to get your message, your ideas in front of people who are likely to come back to you and buy business from you, talk to you, come to your website, like your pages, are going to engage with you so that you can start to build a relationship with them. And that's really how it all works. Most of the big podcasters became successful because they got themselves interviewed on other people's shows. And that's built it all up. So everybody supports each other. Really, really important. So look around for shows that reach your audience. Second thing you need to do is have an interesting story. Now, we've all got interesting stories. I've been talking about storytelling the last few days. So think about your story. That what is it that's interesting about what you're doing? What's making what you do different? Have an interesting story, something you can sell to the interview. It says, hey, I'd love to come and talk. This is what's happened. I've got this brand new book. I've got this course. I've got this program. I've got this incredible piece of research that nobody else has seen before. Doesn't matter what it is. You've got to have a story. I'm a qualified PR consultant, so I know what you've got to do. You've got to grab attention the same way you would if you were trying to send a press release out to somebody. You need a story that they think, oh, that sounds interesting. That'll fill up a good 15 minutes of my show. Because that's what we're all trying to do. Fill up the show. Make sure the show runs well. So you've got your interesting story. That's what you use to try and sell yourself in. Now, most important thing, when you're being interviewed, have a clear purpose, clear objective. It's exactly the same as speaking. You need to know, what is your purpose? What's the message you want to get across? You're going to draw on your experiences. You're going to be something you're passionate about. You've got your performance skills. PEP all works. Purpose, experience, passion, performance. But get that sense of purpose really, really clear. What is the message, the main message you want to get across? And bear in mind that people are not going to take away loads and loads of stuff. So one message, and what you're going to do while you're being interviewed is try in every way you can to repeat that message in various different ways. Keep coming back to it. Keep recommending, keep suggesting it. Now, just one thing I think is worth remembering. Be prepared for awkward questions. Well, just have some thoughts about the kind of questions you're likely to get and how you might answer them. Now, you've probably seen politicians when they go to work on this, where people ask them an awkward question and they'll say something, well, that's a really interesting question, but the real issue here is, and they go rattling off onto something they wanted to talk about. That's a very clever trick. I said I'm a PR consultant. That's what I used to train people to do. It's what I used to do. And when you're doing radio interviews, when you've only got 2 or 3 minutes, you absolutely have to make sure that you stick to what you want to talk about and don't get caught in getting into a battle or getting into a problem with the interviewer, because they're trying to make an entertaining show. So be very careful about that. Acknowledge the question, move it on to something that you want to talk about, skirt around it. But the most important thing is if there are awkward questions people can ask, if you can think of something someone can ask, you think, oh, hope they don't ask that. That's the thing you need to be most prepared for. How do you answer that question if they do ask it? Because the worst thing possible is to sit there going, oh, I didn't really want to answer that question. Oh, no, now. And please don't ever say to somebody, don't ask me about this because I'm not prepared to answer. Because you know very well it's the first thing they're going to ask you, because they know there's something juicy there. Oh, just don't do that. Just be prepared for it. Make sure you can go in there and you can handle that. And finally, here's the thing. Can you cope with the response? Now, if you come on my show, you're not going to get 100,000 people hit your website tomorrow trying to find something on your website, because I don't have 100,000 followers. It'd be nice if I did. But if you get yourself on a big show that's already got 1 million, 2 million followers, and you get mentioned on one of those big shows, and if you've got a great story, there's no reason why you shouldn't get yourself onto one of those big shows, but just be careful. Can your website handle 150,000 people all suddenly rushing to see it in a space of 5 minutes? Because I know a lot of people who've got themselves onto big shows and their website crashed within seconds of anybody mentioning where they could be found, because everybody rushes to it. Because we've got to remember, online, everybody's already on their computer, they're already sitting there. Oh, that sounds interesting. Boom, and then they go, boom. You've got a fixed amount of data that you're allowed to have on with your particular tariff for your website, and it probably isn't 150,000 people all coming in at once. If it hits, your site will go down, you'll crash, and that's it. You've lost the opportunity. In fact, probably worse, because now you've got a bad image because people think, oh, it's a bit of a flaky website. Just be careful. If you go on a show, have a look, find out how much response are you likely to get from this. On the big shows, it might be a lot, and you might need to be ready for it. So that's my thoughts for the day. Have a think about interviews. Have a think about the podcasts and the live shows. Have a look around, see what people are doing. Just ask them. Just send them an email. I'd love to be interviewed on your show. I can guarantee they're desperately looking for people to interview with an interesting story, and you are almost certainly going to get yourself on 2 or 3 shows very, very quickly if you just ask. And coming back to that, why not come along and join me at eSpeaker live? Just check in the chat. You can see there. Go to the Facebook group, eSpeaker Live. Come along, join the group. You can practice there. If you want to be interviewed, let me know. I'll be more than happy to put you on the show and interview you. So I've got everything's sorted out pretty much for next week, but I'm going to have to build up a list of people who want to be interviewed so I can pull them in, and especially anybody who's available to do last minute. So please do. Look forward to seeing you. Take care.